All right, welcome back to episode, I believe, 31 of the Winnipeg Weight Loss Show. We have someone that's not from Winnipeg today, but a special guest from Cambridge, Ontario, who's a member of our program. Absolutely crushed the first 3 months, got a great transformation, and is continuing on that path, that journey to, as we speak, potentially transitioning into the build phase and next steps without me soon enough. So, Brian, welcome to the show first off.
Thanks, Mitch. Good to be here.
Love it. So
Pleasure.
take us back to when you were first kind of mulling over joining. You're not from Winnipeg, and I know some
Right.
people have a bit of skepticism about a coach over the internet. Oh, I need someone hands-on in person. And for whatever reason, you signed on anyway. So what kind of made you take the leap of faith in the first place?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you'd contacted me, and I'm not sure how you contacted me. At the time, I guess I just wasn't ready. And I'm not sure what changed. Maybe what was going on with my dad, my dad being ill. And I had, I'd put on a decent amount of weight over the years myself. I'm not a huge guy, but I wasn't in a place where I felt comfortable anymore in my own body. So we connected the one time, and I said, yeah, screw it, let's do it.
I love
You
it.
know,
Yeah,
and
it worked out because you dove in 100%. Like you could tell
yes.
you committed right from day one, even though you had your dad's health, threw a bit of a curveball wrench at you. So what were your specific results for those listening in that don't know your backstory, didn't see your before and after photo? Like what specifically were the takeaway wins, the measurable stuff first off?
Well, I mean, like I said, I dove right in from day one. Didn't I'm the type of person that needs direction. Tell me what to do and I'll do it, right? So you gave me a clear plan. I jumped on board, did everything best I could as time permitted. Always made sure I got my walks in, always made sure I got my workouts in, tried to do the best I could with the food. I think in the main, I stuck to that probably in the first 3 months anyway, probably 90% I stuck to the plan. And so I dropped, I think in the first 3 months, I dropped something like 23 pounds in the first 3 months, put on a little bit of muscle. My belt size went down a couple of 2, 3 notches. I've had to buy a fairly new wardrobe, which is awesome. I'm fitting into shirts that I haven't fit into in a long time. So, and then, since that 3 month mark, I've continued on the journey. Obviously now at this point in time, because I hit my first goal, the new goal, obviously, right? It's a little more challenging to get there. And I'm still 80% on check. My problem, as you know, is the weekends, and especially with summer being here,
Yeah.
and a few other different things going on. If I want to get to that next stage, I have to fully commit, and I know that. I do most of the work. I do the day-to-day work I do all the time. It's that last little bit, getting my diet in check to hit my final goal. I think I could probably get there in about 4 to 6 weeks if I went all in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's okay to have little maintenance phases where you kind of give your body a break too. Like you lost over 30 pounds. You were flirting with 190, I think, ish. And you
Yeah,
dropped
187, and I'm down to like
yeah,
168, 169.
right. That's a
So, sorry,
significant
158,
right.
159.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So basically a huge percentage of weight loss. So at that point, you're just dealing with the last bit of stubborn belly fat, right? As a
yes,
guy, and you have
absolutely.
no room for error to kind of get
No,
away with that, and it's summer. So I think it's okay to kind of reset and, push that aside a little bit without going the wrong direction and
of course,
gaining
of
back the
course.
weight, stabilizing a bit. So I think the
Yeah,
approach has worked out for you to this point.
yeah.
Were there any, sorry, go ahead. You had something to say?
No, I was just going to say, because I'm 5.5 months into the journey now, I think coming up on
Mm,
6 months, and it's so ingrained in me now
mm,
to get up every day and go for walks. First thing I do in the morning. I go up
perfect.
and do 4K every morning, right? And then I get other steps in during the day, obviously, and then if time permits, I try to do another 4K in the evening. So I'm trying to hit 15,000 steps every day, but my minimum is 10.
Nice.
And so there's that. And if I miss it, so this morning was the first time I missed a walk, obviously with what's going on at home. First time I missed my walk, I think in like 5 months, right?
Yeah.
And I'll get some steps in later, so we'll make it up a little bit. And then the workouts too. I think I've missed 2 workouts in the 6 months. I do not like to miss the workouts. They make all the difference, right? So keeping those 2 things as a daily routine is it's ingrained in me. I really do not like when I miss them now, you know. I don't always look forward to the Mitch, but I
Depends on what's on the agenda. Yeah. Well,
but I don't like missing them. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you've won at this when you stress more about missing workouts than having.
Yes.
Like that's when the habits are starting to really become entrenched. Has there been any residual benefits beyond, you know, obviously the weight loss and health benefits, but you know, of that daily walk, do you have more clarity at work? Do you find you're more focused? Like all that other stuff that tends to get overlooked initially, but has it helped you in that way too?
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about it. But clarity of mind is a definite improvement. Being able to focus on things. I'm juggling a lot of different things right now, and it definitely helps because I'm able to get up in the morning and do my routine. I'm able to go to work and do all that, and then help out at my parents' home. And I'm juggling a lot of different hats right now, and I don't know if I'd be able to do all that if I wasn't in the shape that I'm in right now. You know, I'm a little tired. There's no doubt, but
Yeah.
I need to watch my sleep too. That's another key point too, right? So
Yeah, I think it just makes you more adaptable to the stresses of life. Most people just fall off fitness when shit hits the fan, for lack of a better word, and it tends to just make it worse.
Yeah, and that crosses my mind, Mitch. There are times where I'm like, you know what? I'll just this one time, right? But
yeah,
and one time, right? It's like, oh, I slipped. Now I got to get back on track again. And
it's harder to get back on the wagon than just stay on it, right? But
absolutely,
at times, you know, you're going to miss the odd one. But that's a good sign that you don't miss.
You know, in all the times that I've tried doing stuff like this in the past, Mitch, I've never really stuck to it. And, you know, I listened to one of your videos on Instagram a couple of weeks back where you talked about, you know, if you're going to do it, you got to give it a full year, right? Commit to the year. And I think, you know, that makes a lot of sense because you really want to get all of this ingrained in you where you get to the point where you don't like missing your routines. You don't like eating the unhealthy stuff. And I'm so used to eating, like I love my vegetables. I'm so used to eating my vegetables and I love them and I miss them when I don't have them. And I feel it physically. If I eat the way I used to eat, and, you know, I've done it on the odd day here and there, I don't feel good the next day, man, physically. It impacts you a lot, right? You don't realize how much it impacts you until you get away from that for a while. And then you go back to that not good eating. You don't feel good.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there. You know, you are what you eat, that cliche, but it's so true. Our gut bacteria, everything's impacted. And for eating heavily processed stuff, it affects our mindset as much as our physical and blood sugar and everything else. So
absolutely, and that sort of food sits in you a lot longer too than the whole foods. It's processed very differently, and that has an impact too because you're dealing with that for potentially 2 or 3 days after that one day or one afternoon of not eating right or binging or whatever, right?
Yeah, you really notice it when you're used to the healthy stuff. Well, that's awesome to share. Yeah. So what would you, I guess lastly, you really hit the nail on the head about committing longer term because there has to be an exit strategy, but you got to pick something sustainable too because people can kind of grin and bear it for 6 weeks, lose a bunch of weight, but then they just fall completely off the wagon.
Right.
Back. So it's better to kind of do it in a sustainable way.
Sure.
Have an exit strategy and just kind of coast from there. And that's certainly the outcome we want for everybody. What would you say for someone that's on the fence that may not be fully committed in their head yet, but knows they need to do something? What is your advice to that person that's kind of in your shoes on day one, looking back?
I mean, it's definitely work. I've had a number of people that are familiar with what I'm normally like, and they're blown away with the transition. They're like, Brian, you got to tell me your secret. What did you do? And I'm like, listen, you got to stick to the plan. And so it is work. There's no doubt about it, especially in the beginning. I think over time, it's not necessarily work per se. It just becomes the norm, but it certainly is work in the beginning. If you're not used to exercising, you've got to get used to that. It's going to take a little bit of time. Stick with it. The results will show in time, you know, and it takes a little bit of time for those results to show. But once
Mhm.
I know for me, you know, I'd be a month in, it's like, oh, I see the difference. This is awesome. And then another month, it's like, oh, Jenny, look at the difference here, and so forth and so on. It's going to take a little bit of time, but if you stick with it, it's well worth the reward, right?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I mean, people, no one has magic willpower. You're
Mhm.
disciplined in bad habits generally when you first start. It's just a matter of becoming disciplined in better choices, better habits.
100%.
You
It's
know?
all habits, right?
Yeah.
Everything you do is habit based. So you're either habitually eating not well and habitually not exercising. Well, you can flip that on the other side and make the new norm, right? Eating well, exercising, so forth and so on. You'll feel better for it all around, you know.
Absolutely. Awesome, Brian O'Brien. I loved having you on. I think this really will be helpful for those who are kind of on day one of their journey or haven't even started yet and seeing how you've done it. And it's really simple stuff. It's not easy, of course, but worth it in the end. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Mitch, I'll say one more thing
Yeah.
finally here. Thanks very much for pushing me to join up, because honest to God, I mean, like I'm a different person now, and I really appreciate you sticking it in there with me. And here we are. Awesome.
Love it, Brian.
Thanks, Mitch.